the thing that thrilled me the most when I finally got Tonal was how organic it felt. It felt like weights. It was the closest I've ever come to actual lifting iron. I had a Bowflex machine at one point. One of the original ones with the arms that would flex.
There were actually bows that flexed. Yeah, totally.
Bows that flex. I've worked out with tension bands. I've used, obviously, regular weights, as well as just working in here with dumbbells and with kettlebells. And the magnetic resistance in the Tonal was literally the closest I've ever come to saying this is almost exactly like iron weights. In some ways, I think they're better. In some ways, I think the Tonal is that much better. When you're doing any kind of resistance, like you find on some of these machines, like the Bowflex machine or using resistance bands, as you're moving up, is very light. It only is when you get to the very top of the motion that you get that full tension. And that's when you really feel it coming down. And then, of course, it lightens up again. So you're really not getting, that's the same thing. You're really not getting that whole, resistance from that tension. And that's the same thing with the bows as well. But here in the Tonal, as I'm pointing to it, you can't see it, that resistance is constant, is always there. So, yes, how does it feel? Very much like it.
Gym, better do it smart. Get your own coach there where you are. Start the day right there in your home with the smartest gym in the world. Ready, set, go. Smart handle, smart bar, smart training. There you are. Customize, make it right. AI, form advice. Superset will show you what it's all about. It's a Tonal workout.
Welcome to the Superset Podcast, episode 10. This is Crystal O'Keefe.
And this is Tom O'Keefe. I really like the face you make at the mic stand when it doesn't do what you want it to. It's nice to see something that's not me getting that face. That was day. I was like, see how it feels, mic stand? Welcome to my world.
Yes, I'm so tough on you.
You are.
I'm so tough.
You give me the same dirty look when I don't stay at attention. Like that mic stand was. Anyway, enough of that. So she's looking at her watch. She's like, I got to make a note to cut all that out. So what pray tell do you have in store for people this week?
Oh my gosh. Tonal has been on a crazy roll just like boom, 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 feature, new content. It's
last week was kind of a little slight on the news for us.
I figured it out. It's because Kate was on vacation.
Oh, Kate.
It's and so I think that they she is such a great communicator.
She came back and her desk was all piled up with things that she had to tell people.
It was overflowing.
Yeah.
It was like so this week she's done a great job. And it's 2 weeks between episodes. So in 2 weeks she's done an excellent job of getting her desk cleared off. I have this feeling though, I think there's more coming.
She's always got secrets up her sleeves.
She does. She is tricky.
Even here's how tricky she is. She has things up her sleeves even when she's wearing tank tops. Tricky. Ooh.
Speaking of.
Yes.
I got my new Tonal.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, got my new Tonal too.
And I've got my Riff Track shirt on because I'm a giant nerd.
Yeah.
So, but you haven't actually said what you have in store for people.
Oh, sorry.
Just that there's a lot.
There's a lot.
Throwing that out there.
Yeah. So there is so much exciting news. There's the $110 million influx of cash that Tonal just got. I'm pretty excited about that. New funding. And then they launched all kinds of features we have to talk about.
Awesome.
And then there's all kinds of new content. And then just today, they dropped a whole new thing that we have to talk about. So I don't want to say too much at the beginning.
Right.
It's all new.
Just that there's a lot.
Yes.
Okay. So before we get to all that, shameless plugs, don't forget we are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you can find us. And if we're not there,
tell us.
You tell us and we'll fix it.
It will be there.
And she'll give me the look she gave that mic stand, and then I'll go fix it. While you're there, be sure and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And of course, check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/supersetpodcast, so you can stay up to date on things that happen in the world of Tonal between episodes.
Yes.
So especially with stuff like lots of stuff has happened since the last episode, and you might not want to wait to know.
Yeah, that is very true.
So there's all that. Let's dig in, shall we?
We shall.
So major news from Tonal, if you're wondering about the future of the company, because with startups, people are always like, I don't know. When people were like that with Peloton at the beginning,
Absolutely.
right?
They don't know.
When we started the Peloton podcast, people were always like, for the first 40 episodes, it was like, I hope this lasts.
Yeah.
So here's a real Dave Reitner for everybody, but especially Ali O'Radi. They had a new funding of $110 million.
Stunning.
Yeah.
And new investors, and they were all amazing sports athletes.
Yeah, lots of big names. Some of these names were so big, I even knew who they were.
I mean, that says a lot.
Barry Bonds. I knew one of them, but
you only knew one?
I think I only knew one. Do you have the list in front of you?
I'm pulling it up right
Okay.
now. Oh, you're so cute.
But yeah, I mean, Barry Bonds, singer of the hit song New Orleans, and this little girl?
No.
No?
No.
What? That's Gary U.S. Bonds.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's
Maybe I don't know who he is. No, I know who he is. Even I know that one. So let's hear the rest of them.
Okay. So we have Stephen Curry, and then Paul George, Michelle Y. Maybe it's Michelle Wie. W-I-E.
You're asking the wrong person.
I know.
This is sports.
I hate when I get people's names wrong.
Yeah.
Rudy Gay of the San Antonio Spurs, Kyle Rudolph of the Minnesota Vikings, and Bobby Wagner of the Seattle Seahawks. They now have a roster of more than 20 athletes who are recognizing Tonal as the connected fitness, the strength training system.
Yeah, and I think that says a lot that you have these athletes coming on board as investors. It's like they've used it and they're like, oh, this is not a toy. This is a real thing, real enough that I'm going to put my money in it.
I did not know that Serena Williams was one of their investors, and so is Klay Thompson and Tony Gonzalez.
I did not know that either.
That's new information.
Yeah.
I need to dig deeper in the Tonal archives and see what else.
Got to pull out some SEC filings or something.
And they note in their press release that Tonal was used by over half of the basketball teams within the Orlando bubble during the playoff games.
Wow, that's fascinating.
That is very cool.
And again, people like that, I mean, that's their most important asset, right? Their physical well-being. And if they thought that thing wasn't actually accomplishing,
they wouldn't use it.
They wouldn't use it.
And not only that, but some of them are investing in it. That's how much they love it.
Absolutely.
That says so much.
So that is you don't get a better endorsement than that.
You don't. And I want to also say that this is a little, what do you call it whenever you make a call that you decide you're going to go talk about something?
An audible?
Yeah, I'm calling an audible.
Okay.
So in one of the mini groups that I am in, there is a gentleman who we've known for a long time now, Mike Kyle. He posted about connected fitness, funding for digital fitness during COVID.
Right.
And this was on Twitter by Joe Venair. Zwift, $450 million. Tonal, number two, $110 million. And then there's Keep at 80, Tempo at 60, Hydro at 25, Watt Bikes at 14.8, Fit XR 7.5, Ergata 5, Neo, Neou is 5, Playbook is 3, Forte is 1.2, and Aptive is an undisclosed amount. I just thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, and I feel like Zwift only got so much because everybody's really focused on bikes right now.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They're probably doing some cool things. Like,
I'm not saying that they're not doing cool things and that people shouldn't invest if that's their jam.
Totally.
But I just think it's only that high because bikes are so hot right now.
I find those numbers absolutely fascinating.
But I feel like Tonal's positioned better because right now I feel like there's so many people trying to get into the bike space, and obviously there's a lot of people trying to get into strength too, but way more in bikes.
I find it interesting that there's so many people trying to get into strength, and yet only one of those other companies was on that list, and that was Tempo.
Yeah.
There's a lot of companies trying to get in the space right now. I didn't see any of them on that list.
That's a good
and
point.
I find that very interesting. So, I mean, I don't know how much research that person did. So maybe they just weren't on there because they couldn't find them. I don't know.
Who knows?
But still.
But back to the endorsement aspect,
Yes.
I was just thinking about this. Michael Jordan, right?
Yes.
So endorses shoes, right?
Yes.
He didn't when Nike came to him, he wasn't like, what a fine shoe. How much money would you like from me? Right? Like that wasn't the conversation that was had. Right. It was which is the exact opposite that you're having. What a fine product. Please take my money and make more of it. Like
absolutely.
That's what's going on with it. So says a lot.
It does. And it's also very smart of Tonal.
Absolutely.
Because as we know from growing podcasts, the more people you have spreading the word, like they're in it now. They're invested not only their money, but they're also
their pride.
I mean, yeah, you've made them part of the product. That's smart.
Absolutely.
New Tonal features.
Tonal has a leaderboard.
This has been a long time coming.
Yeah, people have been wanting something like this for a while, and I know there's been a lot of conversation about like what would a leaderboard look like in this setting.
Yes, and the answer is now out there. It would look like how many hours you've spent, how many hours and minutes you've spent on your Tonal in a given month. I'm digging it.
Yeah, that seems like as good of a metric as any, because it's not really fair to compare like weight, how much weight you lifted. Like
just to give you an example, I was telling Brian, my stepson, your son.
Oh, okay, heard of him. Yeah, I'm familiar with his work.
Good.
Yeah,
you looked a little confused.
Yeah,
but I was telling him that because he uses the Tonal, and I was telling him, oh my gosh, they put out this new leaderboard feature, and he was like, oh, I don't want to know anything about it. That just stresses me out. I don't want to I'm just going to be at the bottom. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I was like, let me explain you didn't even ask what the metric was.
Right.
To how you get on he goes, well, I already know it's going to be like number of pounds. And I was like, well, mister.
Yeah.
It wasn't. But my point is.
Wait, a know-it-all teenager?
I know.
I've never heard of such a thing.
I know, right? But he was super surprised to hear that it was this, and he was much more excited about it. So
right.
I'm so happy that Tonal put so much thought into what would motivate people.
So is it time in the class or like time under tension? Or?
No, it's time in the class. It's any time you've spent using the Tonal machine.
So what if you take like 45 minutes between reps?
Well,
I guess if you got that much time.
Yeah.
Then congrats.
And also, who are you trying to this kind of comes back to any kind of fitness thing. I'm always just like, but like, if that's what you got to do to win, what does that say about you? Are you really winning? Are you winning?
Totally. Absolutely.
But I was feeling pretty good about that. There's like, there's like 2,000 people that have signed. You have to go in and register your leaderboard name. So
gotcha.
Way more people than that use Tonal, but they haven't all gone in and made a leaderboard name yet. So right now it's about 2,000, and I'm like right in the 600s, and I think low 600. Like I'm edging down to 700, but I'm okay with that because I do so many fitness things that like to be over halfway on leaderboard. I'm calling it good.
Not 100% of your fitness is on the Tonal, so it stands to reason. So
right, so I'm very proud of that. I thought that was a great thing. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
You can now use your Apple Music with your Tonal.
You can.
Which that's pretty spiffy. Very
spiffy. So people from the Superset podcast aren't as familiar with my plight as some of our other.
Yes.
Like I am an Android girl.
For now, you're finally going to cave and switch.
I am. But one thing that was really cool about this, when Tonal came out and announced this, they had a blurb about how Android users could still get the Apple Music app if they wanted it. And so I really appreciated the attention to detail.
Yeah, they at least have some option out there. But yeah, like since we're Android people have Spotify, but I guess when you switch to Apple, you'll have Apple Music. You can still have Spotify. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. We'll see. I haven't decided, but I love that the option is out there, and I love that they're constantly finding new ways. So now you can listen to your own music while you're...
And that's great. I mean, you can tailor your list, and it saves Tonal money. Let's just say it. Let's not dance around it. Like, it's a way for you to hear the music you want to hear without them having to license everything under God's green earth. And if you want to listen to something like hyper specific,
you can.
If you've got some local band that you really love, like, you have at it. You know
exactly. So it's smart. It's a smart way to do it.
Absolutely. And then they added a little guy to the screen. Is that Is that what they're calling it? The Tonal little guy?
Yeah, that's their official marketing.
Right.
It's called Tonal Little Guy.
Tonal little guy is on the screen.
Yeah.
I
Tom.
guess there's two little guys. Well, it's one little guy, but front and back. They cut them in half.
Yeah.
But not down the middle, like sideways. And you get a tonal little guy front and back. That's what it's called.
Well, they decided to call it a muscle map.
Or that.
So
that's a missed opportunity, if you ask me. You got tonal little guy front and back, just staring you in the face, and you go with, what is it, muscle
map.
A muscle map?
Because it's a map of what muscles you're using at any given time.
Well, sure. I mean, duh. But little guy front and back. How fun is that to say?
Well, I have to say that I really love this feature because one of my favorite things is not that the little guy, as you call him, is down in the bottom of the trainer.
Right.
My favorite part of it is at the end of the workout, you can go to one of the tabs at the end of the workout and see which muscles you've worked in conjunction. So like, not only are you getting to see what muscles you're working on in a given movement.
Oh, you can like see if you like light the whole little guy up.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Front and back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if I like the idea of you lighting up a little guy's front or back.
Well,
but especially front. I don't know. Why is it weird that I'm more worried about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I like being able to see all that I've accomplished because I'm such a visual person that like whenever I see this like map lit up of all the muscles I just worked on, it's like, oh, I did do a lot. Like That's a different way to show an accomplishment.
And it is probably cool like if you do like a full body workout to see the whole thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then in conjunction with this, they also made the weight circle translucent. So when it's not on, it's like it's less visible.
Okay.
And I want to say quieter,
Yeah, but visually quieter.
Yes, right. And that is great for people who are doing like yoga and more of the chill, like a meditation. You don't want to be looking at that weight bar all the time.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
Yeah, it was really smart. I thought it was a really smart thing to do at the same time.
Yeah,
so.
Nice little tweaks.
Exactly.
New tonal content.
Everybody's gone boot camp crazy.
Boot camp. I don't know what that was.
I don't know.
Do you know what a boot camp is?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I've heard of boot camps.
Okay.
Like, I mean, I know, like, I know about boot camp because that's where Abbott and Costello go and buck privates. They go to boot camp.
Well, this is a little bit different.
I would hope because it was a hot mess, but a lot of fun for the viewer.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So Tonal officially has boot camp classes. This is exciting because they're starting to really make a lot of variety of classes.
Yeah.
And this is a big deal. Like to be able to, you've got your yoga, got your meditation, you've got, of course, all of our amazing, just plain old strength training,
right.
But now to be able to have boot camps and the coaches actually work out with you when you do it. So that's pretty awesome too. There are several of these boot camps that just dropped, and my guess is they're going to be dropping more. So you guys need to check it out. I haven't gotten a chance to. It is on my list to do this week. You've got full body options, and I just want to say that one of these is the boot camp with Coach Allison, and it's going to work on the booty because she's the booty coach, but it's a full body one. So all of these they're going to be focused on your whatever body part. Like in this case, it's a full body, but they're going to be fast moving and a lot of body weight exercises. So,
okay.
You're going to get a very different workout than just using the bar or just using the accessories. So totally different way to work out with our coaches.
And speaking of a different way to work out with coaches, there's now pre and post natal classes. No during natal classes?
No.
That's lazy.
Yeah. I'm sure you would think that.
I mean, labor goes on for a long time. You get you squeeze in a couple workouts in between breaths or whatever's going on in there.
Why don't you try that and let us know? Coming from a guy who's never worked out, that's pretty bold.
I've also never had a child.
Well, I mean, you have children, but you have not birthed a child.
I didn't squeeze them out.
Right, which is why you should not be talking about that.
I just like to say things to infuriate you. It's fun.
Well, not only is this content super exciting, but we also have a new guest coach. And I don't know her name because this literally dropped before. By the time that this airs on Wednesday, everyone's going to know the information.
Right, but as we're walking down the stairs to record this.
Boop.
Yeah.
There's a new thing. And so all I know is her first name is Amy.
Okay.
And that she's going to be a guest coach. That's all I know. And there's going to be a tonal talk on Wednesday, the same day that this episode drops. So it'll be September 23rd at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time.
Awesome.
I am very excited about that.
What? You going to be doing some Natelin I don't know about?
No. But I'm excited that they are expanding. I love seeing that.
That is.
I love the variety.
Absolutely.
0 needles.
Because you would have some explaining to do. There is a new contest for people to participate in.
There is. And hopefully people have already signed up for it because today was the deadline on September 21st. So, but this sounds really cool. What they did is they created this whole separate group for everybody to focus on together.
Okay.
And it's called Best Self September. And it's a community challenge. It's going to be hosted by Coach Natalie and Coach Allison. And it's to help you be your strongest physically, but also mentally and emotionally. The thought was, it's been kind of a trying few months, which I think we can all agree with.
I think regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, we can all agree it's been a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And the cool stuff, there's lots of cool stuff in here. You're going to get daily inspirational videos from Coach Natalie and Coach Allison. And there's a bingo card that you get to fill in. And whenever you try to win, when you do these tasks, you get to complete them for prizes.
How about that?
And I love prizes.
You do love prizes.
You do love prizes, which is why I joined the group, of course.
They shouldn't let you win.
I know. I won't win, but I will still join. I will do all the things.
So there's a cool Zoom event coming up.
Yes, and this happened, man, right after we aired last time. This was announced. It's a very cool thing that Tonal is doing. It's the Black Excellence Series, and the very first guest that they had is Coach Jared and his sister, Kaylin Rodriguez, who is a PhD, and they were sharing their views on the school to prison pipeline.
Gotcha.
And so what they're going to do going forward is have these events on a regular basis. It's always going to be like a Tonal employee or a Tonal coach or somebody like that moderating or like hosting the event. And but they'll bring in other guests as well to have like really kind of deep conversations like this one was about some really serious matters. And so I think that's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
I applaud Tonal for doing that.
Also, they are celebrating Latinx Heritage Month.
Yes. And there is some really cool stuff coming up. So first of all, they're on your spotlight row on your trainer. That's where you can get your workouts from your special Latin workouts. Let me be very specific. Yeah. From your favorite Tonal coaches. We've got Coach Nicolette.
Right.
Coach Pablo.
Right.
Coach Francis and Coach Jared. But also, that's not all.
But wait.
There's more.
Act now.
They're also going to do all these really cool events. So on September 24th at 1 p.m. Pacific time, Coach Francis and Coach Pablo are going to discuss their Latin roots on IG Live.
Okay.
On the 25th, Coach Nicolette and Coach Pablo are going to be making Tonal treats in the official Tonal community on Facebook. They're going to make their favorite Latin dishes. And the last time I saw those two cook together, it was hilarious. And I'm just going to say, I really hope there's a cheetah fact this time.
Me too. I was a little hurt that there wasn't one.
We're kidding. We're not hurt.
I'm not kidding.
Okay, I'm kidding.
Don't put words in my mouth.
And then on October 13th, you can chat with Coach Jared and Coach Nicolette on IG Live about what their Latin heritage means to them. So, man, it's just all kinds of cool events. That's one thing that I absolutely love about Tonal. They have events going on every single week. Your Tonal Talks and Tonal Labs and guest people coming in, telling you all kinds of cool stuff. I learn something every day. And, of course, the Tonal Treats.
Checking in with the Tonal community.
So joining us today via the magic of Zoom Tube is Bernie Rizzo. Hey, Bernie, how's it going?
It's going well. It's going well today. How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us.
Good. What I always like to kind of find out is how people originally found Tonal. So how did you come across it?
The miracle of internet marketing. So every so often, when Facebook throws a ad at you, it actually does resonate. And they've been hitting me with the Tonal ads for quite some time. I was intrigued. It was a beautiful piece of equipment. I looked at it and I was just excited by it. My office is where I work out. It's the second floor of our home. And it's a rather small room. It's 13 by 9. So trying to fit weights in here, trying to do my workouts in here was always a problem. And I saw this Tonal machine. I fell in love. But I waited a while. I waited a few months. And I had some stock coming due. It matured. I decided I'm going to treat myself to a little something. So I purchased the Tonal and in December, and they installed it just after the new year. And it's just been a marvel ever since.
What was the decision beside, like, was it just space for you, or were there more decision points that you were like, I have to have this machine?
Well, what finally kicked it over for me, originally it was the novelty of it. It was, having all the classes available. It was the space. But what it boils down to is I need adult supervision. Yes. I've been overtraining for decades. And that's
so what does that mean, overtraining?
What does that look like for you?
Because I don't train at all, so that's like you can overtrain? What is that? Those words don't even make sense together.
Less is more. There can be too much of a good thing.
Then I'm killing it.
Well, you're doing great.
Yeah.
You've mastered this art.
Thank you.
What does overtraining look like? 1,100 push-ups a day.
What?
A day?
What?
That's
how do you have time
overtraining.
For anything else?
I would put in about an hour and a half every morning. I finally cut that down to an hour and a half, and I cut that down to every other day because my shoulder was getting all inflamed.
Right.
So one of the modalities I was doing was all body weight work. That was the last one before I purchased the Tonal. And I realized that I was just reaching a place where there were no more gains. Right. And I was blowing my joints just out. I've had 2 surgeries on this shoulder, one on my right ankle, and I just did not want to go through a third. So I decided I needed the artificial intelligence that's in Tonal to supervise me, to keep an eye on me, to help me stay within a framework. It works.
I want to back up and talk about this 1,100 push-ups in a day. So I don't know that I've done 1,100 push-ups in my life.
Pretty sure you haven't.
I feel really confident. I don't know that I've done 11. But so my question is, like, that sounds beyond, I mean, it's an achievement, so I don't mean to take that away from you, but it sounds ungodly boring. Like, what's going, is that like in a row? Is that spaced out? Like, what are you possibly doing in your head during 1,100 push-ups?
Counting.
Like, there's not like a little device, like a little clicker?
No, furiously counting. I was doing them in sets of 100. I finally reached a point where I was doing them in sets of 125.
Yeah.
With a minute or two in between. Pardon me.
Sure. You're fine.
And
he still has to get rehydrated from 1,100 push-ups, even though it was like 6 months ago. Totally. Yeah.
I was looking at. I've always developed my own workout programs.
Okay.
Which is why I have a variety of overuse injuries and why I've not had the gains that I've wanted to have over all these years. Because when I started doing this about 40 years ago, there was no internet. So everything, I would pick up a book and open it up. That's one person's, viewpoint on it. And nobody was in that book jumping out and saying, no, don't lift like that, lift like this. So I would develop my own programs. So there was a group of young men called Bar Stars. And they were doing these incredible workouts on pull-up bars, chin-ups, dips. And I looked at these guys and said, this is amazing. I love the way these guys move. So they had one video they had online where it was a elderly gentleman in New York, and they're interviewing him. And he says, I forget his name, but I'm so-and-so, and I'm 61 years old. And I come down here to this park from my apartment upstairs every day, twice a day, and I do 700 push-ups. And he went through the push-ups, the pull-ups, the chin-ups, the dips that he does. And I just looked at that and said, this man is my fitness icon. One of these young men looked at him and started shouting from the background, you have a young man's body, sir. You have a young man's body. And he did. It looked like a 61-year-old man's head grafted onto an 18-year-old man's body.
Wow.
So I would say about 2 years ago, I had a tendon, 3 years ago, I think it was, I had a tendon replaced in my right ankle. I'd snapped it. It was just a ongoing tendinopathy where it was just beginning to fray, and it just snapped while I was on a camping trip. Oh. I tripped over a tent stake, oddly enough. Nothing exciting, trust me. Go figure.
Tell me you got in a fight with a biker gang or something, like dressed in that.
I would love to have a story like that, but my brother would see this and call up and he'd go, nah, he's lying. Yeah, they won't let me get away with anything. So I had the surgery, and I was determined to not lay in bed and put on 40 pounds. So I decided I was going to work out through this process after the first 2 weeks of healing. So how do I do this? So I started clicking in my head. I'm like, well, I can't stand and lift. Oh my God, I can go back to doing all body weight. So I went back and I looked at this video, and I went, that's my target. I want to hit 700. Well, I hit it and exceeded it. And I got to 1,100, which was a personal achievement, which drove everyone, including my wife, insane because I couldn't stop telling everyone about it. Yep, did 1,100 this morning. Yeah. When my orthopedic surgeon said, you're bragging, I went, oh, God. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll stop. But that's how I got there. And that was the last self-taught modality I did before I got the Tonal.
So how long did it, when you first went down this road of like your goal is 700, how long did it, like what did day one look like for you? And then how long did it take you to get to 700 and then to finally get to 1,100?
I don't recall the exact time frame. I do know that I started out with sets of 50.
Okay.
And I just stuck with it. Stuck with it. I know that I was in the house convalescing for about 3 months. And I believe I hit that milestone probably another couple of months after that. So I'd say about anywhere from 4 to 5 months to get there.
Gotcha. And so you would just be like sets of 50 until I hit it, and if it takes all day, it takes all day, or you would do sets of 50 until you were basically exhausted, and then that was what you did for the day, and you'd try again tomorrow?
Yeah, I would do sets of 50 till I hit what I thought was a reasonable number.
Okay.
So I think I started out, and I think I got to like 200, 250, and I would build up each week. Now, the whole goal was not to do sets of 50, but to get to sets of 100.
Sure.
I wanted to actually get to sets of 200, but the inflammation in my shoulder just got to be too bad.
Gotcha.
So as I'm moving up in those sets and moving up in the total number, I started looking at what I have to increase. So then it was, all right, so let's do 52 today. Let's do 53. Let's do 54. So I started increasing the individual reps to get to the individual sets.
Okay.
And then increasing the individual sets. And it just magically happened. And amongst all of this, I was doing pull-ups and chin-ups and dips.
I was like, hang on, that's not magic.
No, you were working your butt off.
You were doing something. If I woke up tomorrow and I was ripped, that would be magic.
I will tell you this. Anybody can do this. Anybody can do this. A few years ago, there was a few apps that were put out by Apple. How to get to 100 push-ups, how to get to 100 crunches, how to get to a 5-minute plank. And I did all of these, and I got to those milestones. You can do these things if you just take them a step at a time. What's the old saying? How do you eat an elephant?
Yeah.
One bite at a time.
So exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I'm also hungry.
Okay, so as you've gone through your personal journey, have you always, besides the time that you weren't using weights, but I mean, like throughout your life, have you always used weights, or did you go through different periods of time where you didn't? Like my background is that I started a lot of cardio. I've had a lot of cardio, so I'm just kind of curious where your fitness journey took you from that perspective.
I started with cardio as well.
Okay.
I started with cardio. I moved into weights, and then I would rotate. It was body weight work. It was high intensity interval training. I came across Jim Jones online, the people who had trained the actors in the 300 movie.
Okay. Not the cult leader.
Yeah.
No, not that Jim Jones. Yes.
Yeah, I was like,
this
took a weird turn. Yeah.
There was Jim Jones, and he said, "You need to do this or drink this Kool-Aid." So I came across these guys, and I was amazed at what they did, and they were very hardcore. And they were the first people I had come across that talked about functional fitness. And I really, embraced it, but I wasn't in their gym. And they didn't have much online. So I'm looking at what they're doing, and I'm trying to piece it together myself. And this was, I think, about 2005.
Okay.
And CrossFit really wasn't, CrossFit was invented in 2000, but it wasn't really in a growth phase till about 2005. So that's when it really exploded. I just had that note down. I was looking this up in anticipation, was talking about this. I said, well, what was the timeline of this? So I was trying to develop what essentially turned out to be CrossFit for myself. I was living in Northern California in Richmond near the bay, and there was this strand of beach on the bay, and there was an old tire, big old truck tire, half buried in the sand. I dug it out, and it would just sit there in the sand. I would go down there, and I would lift it and flip it and drag it, and I would go on my long walks, because that was about the time that my IT band tightened up so much that I couldn't run anymore.
Oh my gosh!
And I'd walk with weights. I had a 35-pound weight bar, and I would stop, hit the ground, push-ups, keep moving, work the weight, stop, hit the ground, crunches, keep moving. It was all exercise in motion. It was something that I had invented myself.
This sounds like a Rocky montage.
It does.
I have Hearts on Fire playing in my head.
I promise you, it was not anywhere near as spectacular. I'm 5'8" tall, and it doesn't look quite as good on me.
You know what? So Sylvester Stallone.
That's true. He's tiny.
He's just a tiny little thing.
It's the magic of the camera.
It is.
It just makes you look taller.
Totally.
But it was all self-taught, self-run, and which is why I've made all of these errors over all of these years.
Yeah, and I guess one thing I'm curious, I never did a lot of weights before I have my Tonal, so I'm curious to hear your perspective on what is it like to use the Tonal versus using traditional weights.
Interesting, because the thing that thrilled me the most when I finally got Tonal was how organic it felt. It felt like weights. It was the closest I've ever come to actual lifting iron. I had a Bowflex machine at one point. One of the original ones with the arms that would flex.
There were actually bows that flexed. Yeah, totally.
Bows that flexed. I've worked out with tension bands. I've used obviously regular weights, as well as just working in here with dumbbells and with kettlebells. And the magnetic resistance in the Tonal was literally the closest I've ever come to saying this is almost exactly like iron weights. In some ways, I think they're better. In some ways, I think the Tonal is that much better. When you're doing any kind of resistance, like you find on some of these machines, like the Bowflex machine, or using resistance bands, as you're moving up, is very light. It only is when you get to the very top of the motion that you get that full tension. And that's when you really feel it coming down. And then, of course, it lightens up again. So you're really not getting, that's the same thing. You're really not getting that whole, resistance from that tension. And that's the same thing with the bows as well. But here in the Tonal, as I'm pointing to it, you can't see it, that resistance is constant, is always there. So yes, how does it feel? Very much like it. very, very much like it. It's got tremendous flexibility. One of the last bouts of weightlifting I did seriously, when I was heavily in the gym, was in my late 40s. And I had built myself up to a place where I was, my bench workout, not my top weight, but my workout weight was 350.
Wow.
My neck was like this. It's too much. The Tonal, because it's limited to 200 pounds of resistance, keeps me in a place that's proper for my joints and my age.
Okay.
And my play space. It is a miracle.
So I have a question. You talked about how, like, at one point it was at 350 and you were like a lot bigger. How does that work just on your body, like, in terms of, like, I mean, if you gained a bunch of weight and lost it, you would have excess skin. If you put on a bunch of muscle and you come back down, does it do the same thing, or does it depend on how you come back down?
Well, I will make this observation. When I was working out with my trainer, Dr. Liz Letchford.
Heard of her?
Yeah, Coach Liz. She had snapped a shot of me doing a kneeling pull down using a bar. And I was looking, I was going, wow, yeah, Daddy still got it. Arms were like this. I'm like, oh, okay. Then I looked at my chest and went, oh my God. A certain portion of my chest that used to be here was now down here. I was like, I had a biopsy in my early 20s under my arm. The scar is now here. How does that happen? Exactly what you said. You lose, as you get older, the collagen underneath your skin just begins to disappear. I've been in derm drug sales for 23 years, so it's kind of in my wheelhouse.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Collagen disappears and your skin loses elasticity.
Right.
And there you go. You're right. I built up some muscle and went down, and the skin didn't exactly snap back.
Sure. I always think of that, like, when I see pictures of, like, The Rock, right? And his arm is so huge, and I'm just like, what's that going to look like when you're 75? You know, not to be like
an octopus out of water.
Yeah, and not to be like, oh, you shouldn't do that. I'm just curious.
I don't know. Arnold Schwarzenegger still
have you seen some more? I don't mean to be mean, because obviously he's in way better shape than me. But
I realize that his physique is older and it's thinner, but I wouldn't say that it's saggy. Like, I don't know. Well, I haven't seen a picture of him naked.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I've seen it's been a couple years, but I've seen pictures of, like, where he's, like, at the beach or something. He doesn't have his shirt on.
And it's not all.
He is, and again, I don't mean to be mean to the dude.
No.
Like,
I get what you're saying.
And
like, you're just asking, does it work the same way as.
And I also think
Great skin will come to us all.
Yeah,
right.
And I think he reached a point where I'm not saying he's not working out, but I don't think he's obviously working out at the level that he used to.
Right.
But anyway, I was just curious about that. So with your whole journey of kind of the self-taught, I believe the fancy word is autodidactic. Did I get that? Look at that.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, how about that? What do you think is the worst choice you made during that journey? Like that you, if you go back, you'd be like, I would never do that again.
Oh my, I could point out to 10 things. Skipping leg day constantly.
It's hard to make yourself do leg day.
Yeah, now I'm really focusing on now. One day I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, well, you look good on top, but bottom, not so much. That was bad. Flies. In that fly machine, that ruins your shoulder. Ruins it. Okay. That's a major mistake. Upright rows. That's another one that just blows your shoulders up.
Okay.
Really?
In my opinion, yeah.
Right.
Overtraining.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Training by the numbers, which is what we did 40 years ago. How many reps? How many sets? How much weight? Which body part? It is just the worst possible period way to work out, period.
Why
I've learned a whole new paradigm.
And what compare that paradigm to the one that you prefer now?
We're doing blocks with circuits. We are doing things that are complementary. You're doing one push movement. You're doing a pull movement. We're doing multiple compound movements. We're doing things that are benefiting me and protecting my joints. Coach Liz is injury proofing me and helping me to work around all these injuries that I've given myself, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, all of these, that old paradigm can lead to overtraining, and it's fine for a young body.
Right.
When you start getting into your 40s and 50s, not so much.
I've heard Coach Jackson talk about that a lot too, and he says that that he used to train that way, where it's it's just like kind of one body part a day. So it's like, oh, I'm going to do chest and back today, and tomorrow I'm going to do arms. And he says that's not the way to do that anymore, because you to your point, Bernie, it hurts those, because those muscles that you're using, you tend to use the same workout over and over again, and you tend to try to lift more weight than those joints really can handle, and a lot of other smart things that he said. But it like all, I think what Bernie's saying is that, like, working with Coach Liz and all of the, and whenever we were using the Tonal, all of the Tonal instructors, they build in all of those things to make sure that you don't hurt yourself. They build in all of the things to make sure that you're stretching your muscles properly after you use them and before you use them. And so that's something I appreciate from Tonal. They're bringing in like the cutting edge knowledge, and looking at it from this like holistic approach instead of piecemealing it together. And I didn't know weightlifting could be that way. I thought it had to be exactly what you described, Bernie, where it's like, okay, today's leg day, today's arm day, and a lot of people still work out that way. A lot.
It's crazy. It's an ancient paradigm. It's not the way to do it. I think if I were to give one piece of advice to your listeners who have a Tonal, it would be this: listen to the coaches. They're putting those programs together for a specific reason. The way they're putting them together is specifically made for you to get a maximum amount of return with a minimum amount of time. You don't need to spend an hour and a half, 2 hours a day doing this. I am doing what I'm doing with the Tonal, and from what the coaches have been doing with me, I'm doing 3 days a week, 40 minutes at a pop. I'm down from an hour and a half to 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I'm getting 5 times the returns.
Yeah, your post really spoke to me. Tell us what those returns look like for you. You're seeing specific gains like in muscle, or you're able to lift more? What does that look like for you?
Well, I'm fighting these injuries. I'm fighting these joint injuries. So what this looks like to me is that I'm actually able to lift and not inflame everything and not wind up running back to my ortho and getting a shot of cortisone. It is, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm seeing, I've been doing this for years, so I keep myself in good shape, but I'm seeing some definition in places I hadn't seen before.
Interesting.
That's what it looks like to me. It's keeping myself lean, because it's forcing me to work out in a way that is a stepped up pace, which gives me a cardio benefit. It's forcing me to engage my core in every single exercise, and it's giving me a better result on my core than I've ever had. I'm at 15% body fat now. If I can get myself down to 10, which I don't know, I like my scotch too much. We all have our sins. That's my principal sin.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I would have, at 58 years old, I would have a rockin' six-pack. Rockin'.
That's amazing.
This is what Tonal's doing. And what I love about Tonal, what I respect enormously about the company, is they didn't hire actors and dancers and video them, with a canned presentation. They hired coaches. They hired real, honest-to-God trainers with tremendous CVs, and their professional chops are incredible. And they're active. They're interactive with us. If you own a Tonal, you're not on that Facebook page, you're missing out.
That is true. I posted today that I had done a new workout from Coach Jared. It was his advanced weight training, so it uses eccentric chain and the chains and all of the different modes. And I posted about it, and he immediately posted and was like, now I want you to do that workout again in a week and see how different your body feels. Just one workout 1 week later, do it again. And so I'm excited to try that. But like, to your point, you would just post something like that. Boom. They talk to you. They want to be involved in your journey. And to that point, tell us about this training you've been doing with Liz, this one-off training. How did you get into it? And what are you loving about it? Because you're still using the Tonal. So I'm curious how you're using them together.
That's one of the things that I insisted on when Liz and I started working with each other. I said, everything we do, I want to do with Tonal because this is how I'm moving forward. I want to start as I mean to go on.
Okay.
I came to Liz, I got my Tonal, and I started doing the programs, and there were exercises there that I said, I shouldn't do that one, but I'm going to do it anyway. And yeah, of course, I inflamed my shoulder again. And that was becoming a problem. And then I inflamed my left ankle, and that wasn't Tonal's fault. That was a very narrow treadmill that I put under my desk for COVID times so I could walk while I worked at my stand-up desk. And that began to deteriorate my left ankle. And I started to get very depressed at this. And then in the very beginning of COVID, I was moving about 6-7 cubic yards of mulch and spreading around the yard. And I pulled my bicep tendon here on my right arm, which has always been a problem. And I was infuriated and I was depressed. Coach Jackson was trying to help me reset my mind on how I viewed physical therapy. I'm the worst possible patient when it comes to physical therapy. And he got me to change my attitude about it, but it still wasn't progressing fast enough for me. And I was doing this PT that was online. My ortho gave it to me, and it was a canned presentation. It was for someone post-surgery, not somebody trying to repair an injury. So I actually stepped away for a few weeks. Then I went back to the page one day, and I was just, fooling around. And I was complaining about, what was going on. And one of the other members said, you need to reach out to Dr. Coach Liz. And somebody had mentioned her before, her shoulder in the weight program, which I thought of doing, and I had not picked it up. Because that used to be my strongest point, now my weakest point. So I said, this is great. I think I will, I'm typing, I think I will reach out to Coach Liz. She reached out to me. So, all right, let's talk. So we did a little Zoom meeting. We talked about what the process was. And I said, let's set one up. And we set up the initial evaluation, which was about 2 hours. And then she custom built a program for me based on how I was moving, what my problems were. She did a tremendous job doing an intake with me, all of my injuries, my medical history, how I eat, how I sleep, everything. She was as thorough. She was actually more thorough than the physicians that I work with.
Wow.
She hit every single spot. Anything that could affect what we were doing from a nutritional standpoint to a rest standpoint to a mechanical standpoint, she zeroed in on, and then she built the program. And then we would work the first week of each program. We'd work each day, that Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then as you moved into the second week, we would taper it down to maybe 1 or 2 days, and then we would take off for about 2 weeks because these were 6-week evolutions. And then towards the end, we would touch on another one. And then at the very end, we go to another 2-hour evaluation and develop the next program. So we're on evolution 2. We'll go to evolution 3. And then she's going to cut me loose to fly free from the nest. It's been amazing. Coach Liz is just incredibly knowledgeable. She is patient. She is fun to work with. And she's tailored this in a way that has not only kept me from injuring my shoulder, but is helping me heal it. And she's teaching me how to hold myself. I would always rotate my shoulders forward, which is a problem, especially when you're lifting. So I'm learning to relax my shoulders, keep my scapula spread apart, and engage my lats because I was not engaging my back. The old saying, throw your back into it. There's a reason for that. That's one of the strongest parts of your body. And it was underdeveloped, and this was overdeveloped here, which was causing imbalances. So she would work with me. She'd observe what I was doing. And of course, there's a lot of moving of the iPad camera around. But she would correct me, and I would, grab onto that correction, and I immediately self-correct. And we would move on to the next one and the next exercise, and it became very collaborative. So the first one, it was what she was doing to me. The second evolution is what we developed together based on, what was going on, what worked, what didn't. As we were moving on, she'd say, all right, how's that feel? And I'd say, oh, I'm having pain here. She said, all right, that's your labrum. All right, so we're going to stop that exercise. We're going to modify it this way. Or pain here. Okay, that's the labrum. That's the biceps tendon. And the pain back there is the torn rotator cuff. But wherever it was, she would zero in on it and go, okay, we're going to change this move to this, or you're going to modify it this way. Very in tune, very thorough, and it's incredible. It's incredible what I'm able to do now and not injure myself.
So your mobility has increased from this?
Yes, my pain-free mobility.
Okay.
My range of motion has not been bad. It's been actually really good for 2 shoulder surgeries. Coach Liz looked at me and said, you had 2 and you can do that? I'm like, yeah, I'm flexible. But what I can do now is I can get in there and lift and not within 2 weeks blow my shoulder back out.
Wow. That's
awesome.
huge.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so that will mean that as you move forward, you'll be able to hit your goals because you'll be doing it safely.
I hope so. There is an underlying autoimmune disorder that a doctor spotted for me. Thank you. About a year ago, which we're still working on. And we think it's psoriatic arthritis, which the irony is incredible because I sell a biologic for psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis, the first new one in years. And it's exceptional. So as soon as we zero down to that, I'll probably wind up taking that particular biological treatment, which will probably stop the degradation of the joints. But if I can stop that, then there's no stopping me from moving on to the next milestone and the next milestone and the next one. What I do in my 40s, what I did in my 40s set me up for how I managed my 50s. And some of the reasons why I didn't break my neck in Hawaii when I was body surfing and got slammed headfirst into the sand was because of all the exercise. Why I didn't snap that ankle completely in half was because of the shape I was in. What I do in my 50s is going to set me up for what I'm going to be like in my 60s and partially into my 70s. What I do in my 60s is going to dictate how mobile I am in my 80s. I'm thinking ahead.
That's good.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It is. I was just going to ask if you had any other advice that you wanted to share with the community that you feel they need to know about Tonal, about just getting started, anything like that.
Well, we talked about listen to your coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Truly listen to them. Rotate your programs. There's a reason why these programs are, only a few weeks long, or they're fairly short programs. Your muscles will adapt very quickly to whatever you're doing, and your body will find the most efficient way to do it, and your gains just drop because your body is just that interested in doing and expending the least amount of energy. So there is a reason why they do that. So follow along with that. Don't overtrain. I see a lot of people saying, well, can I do 2 programs at once? Can I add something in? Be very careful what you add in. I would probably stick mostly to one particular exercise program at a time. If I add anything, like I decided to add a few things in with what Liz and I are doing, it's usually just abdominal work. Coach Nicolette's 10-minute abdominal workout, I would recommend highly. It will kick your rear end in sideways.
True that.
Coach Nikki just left me. I was on the ground going, oh my God, my stomach. I have grown to both love and hate that one as much as I both love and hate Bulgarian split squats.
Oh.
So Crystal, how often do you torture Coach Jackson about Bulgarian split squats?
I honestly don't. I don't say much to them about it because I know that I need to. I know that it's good for me to do, but oh my gosh, I hate them so much. I hate them.
They are good for you, but yeah, I don't miss it. I don't miss a chance to just throw something in there. Yeah, thanks, Coach. My legs are killing me now.
That's what you wanted. That's what you wanted.
So no family vacation to Bulgaria is what you're telling me.
Yeah, no, I think that's out. I'll just get off the plane. I'll be so traumatized by the sheer name of it and run away. Run away on my rubbery legs after doing all the Bulgarian split squats.
Awesome. Well, you know what? Before we go, where can people find you on social media if you would like to be found?
If they would want to find me, I'm on Facebook under Bernard Rizzo. You can find me there. You see my shiny face on the front cover, on the front page. But there's one thing I'd like to
sure. Sorry. Yeah.
plug, if I may.
Absolutely.
I would urge anyone, if they're getting started with Tonal and this is a new thing for them and lifting is new, of course, reach out to all of our coaches. They'll answer. They'll work with you. And almost all the coaches do training. They do training. But if you have specific issues, specific problems, or if you really want to work with someone with their doctorate in this entire, realm, Coach Liz Letchford, I would suggest contacting her at lizletchford.com. That's LIZLETCHFORD.com, and set up just a one-time evaluation. That's all you have to do. It's a 1-2-hour evaluation. It is worth every dime. And if you can do a couple of evolutions with her, if you can work with her for a period of time, do it. It is so worthwhile. But all of the coaches, if you buy a Tonal and you decide you don't want to pay the $49 a month, you're crazy. Pay it. It's worth it. You get all of these coaches. You reach out to them. They'll work with you. This is integral to the whole piece of equipment. Avail yourself of that.
And I think that's a great piece of advice, because I bet a lot of people don't realize that these coaches are reachable and hireable for individual plans and whatnot if you're so interested.
Yeah, definitely.
I never thought that. I thought I was buying a piece of equipment. I didn't realize I was buying a place in a community.
Yeah.
You get
and
both.
It's amazing.
Absolutely.
It's incredible. And I'm having so much fun with this. And it's the most welcoming community I've ever seen. I've heard people say some things about the Peloton community that they're kind of mean to each other.
You know what? It's gotten so large. Anytime you get that many people, you're going to have some D-bags in the mix.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
There are a lot of great people in the Peloton community, but what you're saying also is not inaccurate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's...
Yeah, I'm sure there is. Yeah. And I'm being a little too... I'm painting a very broad picture.
Sure, totally. I get it. I do the same thing. So, but... You're not wrong in that there is certainly that element out there, and I think that's less about Peloton and more just about the scale that it's reached at this point. And
I definitely agree with that.
And Crystal talks all the time about how she feels like the Tonal community feels like what the Peloton community felt like 4 years ago.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
And I hope we can keep it this way.
Yes.
Yeah. And also, for people, when you're talking about joining the Facebook community or reaching out to coaches, if Tonal has even half the trajectory that Peloton does, you need to do that now, because in 2 or 3 years,
they're going to be too busy. They won't be able to.
These coaches and stuff are going to be so swamped, they're not going to have time for this.
Yep.
Or it's going to be so expensive because they're big damn deals, even more so. So now's the time, man. Get it on the ground floor.
I agree, Tom.
Well, I'm anticipating that Tonal will probably wind up, and I don't have an inside track to this.
Sure.
But it makes sense to me that they will probably wind up adding, not ad hoc coaches, but as Coach Light, I guess, the people that you can reach out to who will train you personally, and they'll be all over the place.
Yeah.
Because once the scalability of this piece of equipment is incredible, and once they activate that camera, it's going to be a whole new world.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
but I know we to the viewers, to the listeners, we are just
spitballing.
We're just spitballing. We don't know anything. It's just what we think's going to happen. So don't hold us accountable.
Yeah, I do not work for Tonal. I have not received money from Tonal. But I can guess. I can dream.
Yeah,
That's right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. We really appreciate it.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you for having me. This was a treat. This was a wonderful experience, and I'm glad to be able to share what I've learned and my experiences with Tonal and my workout and fitness experiences over my lifetime. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Oh,
thank you.
It's great, and I really appreciate you sharing and being so candid. It really helps people, I think, understand the gem of the equipment that we have, the GEM.
I agree 100%.
All right. Well, thank you again, Bernie, and you have a good rest of your night. I will be in touch with all the details about when the episode will post and all that good stuff. So
please let me know. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
You too. You take care. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you. You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So I guess that brings this episode to an end.
That it does.
What, pray tell, do you have in store for people next time?
Yeah, I'm winging it a little bit. So I'm looking for people in the Facebook community if anybody wants to be on the show.
Or if anyone's got any suggestions for people that have great stories.
Yes, I'm still getting to know all the people in the Tonal community.
Absolutely.
So I'm coming to look for you guys.
Okay, so be prepared.
Yes.
Check your other box on Facebook sometimes. Awesome. Well, until next time, where can people find you?
People can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Crystal D. O'Keefe. And they can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at ClipOutCrystal.
And you can find me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. You can find the show online at facebook.com/Superset Podcast. And wherever you're getting your podcast from, be sure and subscribe so you never miss an episode. So thanks for tuning in. And until next time, keep lifting.
Smart training, there you are. Customize, make it right. AI, form and vibe. Superset will show you what it's all about. It's a tonal workout.
The Superset is made possible in part by support from Tonal.